Tonight is not like other nights. If you click this by accident, listen carefully, because there are no accidents right now. Something unseen paused the flow of your life just long enough for this moment to reach you. And before you dismiss that thought, feel what just happened in your chest. That quiet tightening. That sudden stillness. That is not imagination. Michael is crying in heaven. Not because of punishment. Not because of anger. But because of what was almost taken from you without you ever knowing it was yours. He begged God to show you this. And God allowed it. Once. There is a reason this message found you before it was too late. You have lived your life feeling like something invisible has been blocking you. Like you were meant for more, but the door never fully opened. You tried harder. You stayed patient. You watched others rise while you stayed still. And somewhere along the way, you started questioning yourself, your worth, your timing, your destiny. But what if I told you, the delay was not because you were unchosen? What if the delay was because what was assigned to you was so rare, heaven itself had to protect it? Michael saw something attached to your name long before you were born. Something that does not attach itself to many people in one generation. A mark that draws attention in both realms, the visible and the invisible. And tonight, that mark was almost erased by your doubt. That is why he is crying. There is a man on this earth, a millionaire, who recently discovered something about you that even you don't know yet. Not your name, not your face, but your pattern, your signature. The way your life keeps intersecting with moments of loss right before moments of breakthrough. He noticed something most people miss. Every time you were about to rise, something pulled you back, not to destroy you, but to test whether you would still believe without evidence. And you did, even when you were tired, even when you felt forgotten, even when silence felt louder than answers. That persistence is not common. That persistence is currency. And tonight, heaven responded. Michael stood before God not with demands, but with urgency. He said, if they walk away now, if they scroll past now, they will never know how close they came. Because this moment is not about fear, it's about timing. There is a transfer, not just of money, not just of opportunity, but of awareness. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Once it unlocks, your decisions change, your confidence changes, your patience turns into precision. And the reason this must be open now is simple. There is a window, and it does not stay open long. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are not ordinary. You are standing at the edge of something that only reveals itself to those who stayed kind in a cruel world, stayed hopeful in a slow season, stayed faithful when quitting would have been easier. Michael is crying because he knows what happens next. And because if you knew what was about to move in your favor, you would never doubt yourself again. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear next was never meant for the masses, and once it's spoken, your life does not go back to what it was before. Something shifted the moment you stayed. Most people would have left by now, not because they don't believe, but because belief feels risky when it's been disappointed too many times. Yet here you are, and that alone confirms what Michael saw. You don't chase noise. You respond to truth. There is a reason your life has felt like a series of almosts. Almost stable, almost successful, almost seen, almost chosen. You kept telling yourself, maybe next time. But what you didn't know is that every almost was training your discernment. Because what is coming to you cannot land in careless hands. The millionaire who discovered this pattern didn't do it by accident. He studies outcomes. He studies people who rise suddenly and people who rise slowly, and last. And when he looked at the data, one thing stood out. People like you don't explode early. You ignite late. Late enough to survive it. There is something about your spirit that refuses shortcuts. Even when you were desperate, you didn't become dishonest. Even when you were overlooked, you didn't become bitter. Even when you were hurt, you didn't become cruel. That restraint protected your future. Michael knows this. That's why his tears are not weak, they are urgent. Because urgency means alignment is happening faster than you expected. The same force that delayed things is now accelerating them. But here is what you must understand right now. What is coming will not arrive loudly. It will not knock with fireworks. It will not announce itself to everyone. It will come quietly, disguised as a normal moment, a simple decision, a conversation you almost didn't take seriously. And if you are not awake, you could step past it thinking it's ordinary. That is why this message matters. You are entering a phase where small choices carry massive consequences. Where saying yes once, or no once, changes an entire trajectory. And heaven is watching not to judge you, but to guide you. Michael begged because he knows this. You don't need more effort. You need clarity. Clarity about who you are not anymore. Clarity about what you will no longer tolerate. Clarity about the version of you that survived when others quit. You are not waiting for your life to start. Your life has been waiting for you to recognize it. In the next part, you will understand why certain people had to leave, why certain doors had to close, and why what felt like loss was actually repositioning. Do not disconnect now, because once this understanding locks in, you will realize something shocking. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was random. And nothing, absolutely nothing, about you is small. There is something you were never told, not because it was hidden from you, but because you were not ready to hear it until now. Some of the pain you experienced did not come from failure. It came from protection. There were paths you wanted so badly, people you prayed would stay, opportunities you thought were perfect for you. And when they slipped away, you blamed yourself. You replayed conversations. You questioned your worth. You wondered what you did wrong. But heaven was watching something you couldn't see. If those doors had stayed open, you would have settled too early. Michael saw timelines where you received less than what you were capable of holding, and those timelines were shut down. Not gently, abruptly, because gentle warnings wouldn't have stopped you. So things broke. Plans collapsed. Connections faded. Certainty dissolved. And in the middle of that confusion, you kept going anyway. That is not normal resilience. That is calling. There is a difference between people who want success and people who are designed to carry responsibility. You fall into the second category. And responsibility requires capacity. Capacity requires pressure. Pressure creates depth. That depth is why you feel things so intensely. Why silence affects you. Why injustice bothers you more than others. Why you can't live shallow even when you try. You weren't built for surface, level living. And that's exactly why the next phase won't look like what you imagined years ago. It will be better. But first, something must be released. There is an old version of you, still loyal to pain, still attached to proving yourself, still waiting for validation from places that will never give it. That version served its purpose. It kept you alive. It taught you empathy. It shaped your intuition. But it cannot follow you where you're going. Michael is crying because this is the moment people hesitate. Not because they don't believe, but because letting go of the familiar hurts, even when the familiar hurts you. Yet if you stay attached to who you were, you delay who you are becoming. And time matters now. You may already feel it, a subtle restlessness, a quiet urgency, a sense that something is about to change whether you're ready or not. That's because alignment has started. The pieces are already moving. What happens next will test not your strength, but your trust. Trust that you don't need to chase what is meant for you. Trust that what is aligned will recognize you. Trust that you don't have to explain yourself to walk into your next chapter. This is not the end of waiting. This is the end of wondering if it was ever going to happen. Stay present. Because in the next part, you will understand why this moment, right now, was scheduled long before you ever clicked play. This moment was written into your life quietly, not as a date on a calendar, not as a loud prophecy, but as a turning point that only reveals itself to those who stay long enough to feel it. Right now, something inside you is listening more deeply than your ears ever could. Because here is the truth that was kept from you until now. Your life is not about catching up. It's about stepping into position. You were never behind. Others were simply ahead of you on paths you were never meant to walk. And the frustration you felt wasn't jealousy. It was misalignment. Your spirit rejecting destinations that looked successful but felt empty. Michael knows this. That's why he cried. Because once this realization settles in you, you stop chasing proof. You stop shrinking to fit rooms that don't deserve you. You stop explaining your vision to people who only understand outcomes. And that is dangerous, in a good way. From this point forward, things will begin to rearrange themselves without force. Conversations will happen naturally. Opportunities will surface without begging. You will notice that you are no longer exhausted by waiting, because you are no longer waiting. You are preparing. There is a shift happening in how you see yourself. Not arrogance, not ego, but grounded certainty. The kind that doesn't need applause to move forward. And here's what most people never realize. When heaven decides to move something into your life, it first removes your tolerance for what no longer matches you. That's why you've been feeling detached. That's why old habits don't satisfy you. That's why certain voices suddenly feel distant. You are not losing interest. You are gaining clarity. Michael begged because clarity changes everything. Once you see clearly, you cannot be manipulated by fear. You cannot be delayed by distraction. You cannot be convinced to settle. And once that happens, the transfer begins, not just externally, but internally. Confidence where there was doubt. Calm where there was anxiety. Direction where there was confusion. This is not hype. This is alignment. And alignment doesn't shout. It settles. Stay with this. Because the final understanding is approaching. The part where you realize why this message could only reach you now, and why after this, your life will never feel small again. There is a quiet moment before everything changes. Not dramatic, not loud, just a calm that feels unfamiliar, almost suspicious. That is where you are now. Most people think change announces itself with chaos, but real transformation arrives with clarity. And clarity can feel unsettling when you've lived in uncertainty for so long. You may notice it already. You're not as reactive. You're not as desperate. You're not chasing explanations anymore. That's because something inside you has accepted a truth your mind is still catching up to. You are safe to move forward. Michael understands this phase. It's the moment when heaven steps back, not because it has left you, but because you are finally ready to walk without constant reassurance. This is where strength becomes visible. Not the loud kind. Not the kind that proves itself. The quiet kind that chooses wisely. There is something approaching your life that will ask one simple question, not out loud, but through circumstance. Do you trust what you've become? Because what is coming will not need you to beg. It will not need you to perform. It will not need you to explain your past. It will meet you where you are now. And this is where many people unknowingly delay themselves, by reaching back for what feels familiar. Instead of stepping into what feels right, don't confuse comfort with alignment. Comfort keeps you still. Alignment moves you forward. You were built for forward. Every season of uncertainty trained you for this calm. Every unanswered prayer refined your discernment. Every disappointment stripped away illusions until only truth remained. That truth is simple. You don't need permission anymore. You are not waiting for a sign. You are becoming one. Michael's tears were never about fear of loss. They were about the beauty of recognition. The moment when someone finally sees themselves clearly, without distortion. And once that happens, everything that belongs to you begins to recognize you too. You are closer than you think. Not to a breakthrough, but to embodiment. And when that fully settles, nothing will ever move you backward again. There is a reason you feel different now. Not excited, not anxious, just steady. That steadiness is new for you. You used to measure progress by movement, by signs, by messages, by external confirmation. But something has shifted. You no longer need constant reassurance to keep going. You don't need everyone to understand. You don't even need certainty the way you used to, because certainty has moved inside you. This is what Michael was watching. The moment when a person stops asking, "Will it happen?" and starts living like it's already decided. When that switch flips, pressure loses its power. Delay loses its threat. Other people's opinions lose their grip. You don't rush. You don't freeze. You move with intention. And intention attracts alignment. Here is something few people are ever told. When you reach this stage, life begins testing you differently. Not with obstacles, but with invitations. Invitations to over-explain. Invitations to go back. Invitations to doubt yourself just one more time. These are not setbacks. They are filters. And you are passing them. You may notice fewer people around you now. Fewer conversations that go deep. Fewer places that feel like home. That's not loneliness, that's precision. Your environment is adjusting to match who you are becoming. Michael cried because this is sacred territory. Once you cross it, you don't unlearn what you've learned. You don't unsee what you've seen. You don't go back to shrinking. You start choosing peace over proving, depth over noise, alignment over approval. And that choice, made quietly, consistently, is what unlocks everything else. You are no longer preparing for your life. You are stepping into it. And from here on, things will respond to you differently, not because you changed the world, but because you finally stopped betraying yourself. Stay present, because what unfolds next won't feel dramatic at first, but one day soon, you'll look back at this moment and realize, this was the point of no return. There comes a point when nothing needs to be added, only recognized. You are there now. What once felt like emptiness is revealing itself as space. Space for better decisions. Space for clearer connections. Space for the version of you that no longer negotiates with doubt. This is why the noise has faded. This is why the urgency has softened. You are no longer being pushed, you are being aligned. Michael watched this moment with reverence. Not because something spectacular was happening on the outside, but because something irreversible had happened within you. You stopped chasing. You stopped explaining. You stopped waiting to be chosen. You chose yourself, quietly, without announcing it. That choice echoes. And here is the part few understand. When you stop reaching outward, life starts reaching toward you. Not all at once. Not dramatically, but accurately. You may notice people responding to you differently. Not because you demand respect, but because you embody it. You may notice opportunities presenting themselves without force. Not because you asked, but because you were ready. This is not coincidence. This is congruence. Everything you've been through sharpened your discernment. You can now sense what aligns and what drains you almost instantly. That awareness is protection, and it's also direction. Michael cried because awareness is power. Once you have it, nothing can deceive you into settling again. From this point forward, your life will feel simpler, but not smaller. Cleaner, but not emptier. Focused, but not limited. You will still grow. You will still build. You will still rise. but you will do it without losing yourself. And that is the kind of wealth that multiplies. You are not waiting for a miracle. You are becoming one, slowly, steadily, undeniably. And everything meant for you is already adjusting its path to meet you exactly where you stand. There is a calm confidence forming in you now, not the kind that announces itself, the kind that doesn't need to. You may not have words for it yet, but you feel it, an inner agreement, a quiet yes to your own life. The resistance that once lived in your chest has softened, not because everything is solved, but because you trust yourself to handle what comes next. This is maturity of the spirit. Michael understands this stage deeply. It's when striving ends and stewardship begins. You are no longer trying to become someone, you are learning how to carry who you already are. And that changes how life responds to you. Situations that once drained you will no longer hold your attention. Conversations that once confused you will feel obvious. You will stop asking, "Why is this happening?" and start recognizing, "This doesn't belong with me anymore." That recognition is freedom. You are not losing possibilities, you are refining them. The narrowing you feel is not limitation, it's focus. And focus is what turns potential into reality. Here is something important to understand now. When alignment is this close, impatience can feel tempting. But patience here is not waiting, it is allowing. Allowing things to arrive in their correct form. Allowing people to reveal who they truly are. Allowing yourself to move without fear of missing out. Because nothing aligned will pass you by. Michael cried because he saw the contrast, who you were when you doubted yourself, and who you are becoming now. The difference is subtle, but it is decisive. You no longer need to rush into the next chapter. You are already inside it. And the more you remain grounded in this calm certainty, the more naturally everything that matches you will begin to appear. Not to overwhelm you, but to walk with you. This is not an ending. This is a stabilization, a foundation strong enough to hold what's coming without breaking you. And what's coming will recognize your readiness the moment it arrives. There is a quiet intelligence guiding you now. Not logic, not impulse, something deeper. It's the part of you that knows when to move and when to stay still. The part that no longer confuses urgency with importance. The part that listens before acting. This is wisdom earned, not taught. Michael watched this develop over time. Through moments when you wanted answers but received silence instead. Through days when effort didn't match results. Through nights when you wondered if your patience was being mistaken for weakness. It wasn't. It was shaping authority. Authority over your reactions. Authority over your direction. Authority over your future. You are beginning to see that not everything deserves your energy. That discernment is not coldness, it is self-respect. And self-respect changes the entire trajectory of a life. You may notice something else too. Your standards are rising, even if your words are not. You're less willing to compromise what matters. Less interested in half-truths. Less tolerant of environments that require you to shrink. That's not ego. That's alignment asserting itself. Michael cried because once this line is crossed, the old life cannot reclaim you. You might visit familiar places, but you will never belong to old limitations again. From here on, growth will feel natural, not forced, not exhausting, not desperate. You will move with clarity, and clarity simplifies everything. Decisions become cleaner. Relationships become clearer. Direction becomes undeniable. You are no longer being shaped by circumstances. You are shaping your response to them. And that shift, internal, subtle, steady, is what turns intention into impact. You are not waiting for something to happen. You are becoming the kind of person things happen through. And that realization, that is where momentum truly begins. Something important is settling into place now. It's not excitement. It's not anticipation. It's ownership. You are beginning to stand inside your life instead of hovering around it. No longer asking if you belong in certain rooms. No longer wondering if you're allowed to want more. No longer apologizing for the weight of your presence. You belong where you are. Michael saw this moment coming long before you felt it. The moment when self-doubt loosens its grip, not because everything worked out, but because you stopped outsourcing your worth. That change is permanent. From here, you will notice that your energy feels cleaner, less scattered, less pulled in 10 directions. You are learning the power of saying no, not out of fear, but out of clarity. And clarity creates space. Space for better conversations. Space for aligned opportunities. Space for the kind of progress that doesn't cost you your peace. There is also something else happening, quietly. Your past is losing its emotional charge. The memories are still there, but they no longer control you. The lessons remain, but the pain is no longer the driver. That is healing in its most authentic form. Michael cried because this is what freedom actually looks like. Not escape, but integration. You didn't run from your past. You learned from it. You carried it forward without letting it define you. That strength is rare. And rare things attract rare outcomes. From this point forward, life will feel less like survival and more like authorship. You are no longer reacting to chapters. You are writing them. Not rushed. Not pressured. Not afraid. Just present. And when you live from this place, what arrives next doesn't overwhelm you. It meets you at your level. You are not stepping into something new by accident. You are stepping into it prepared. There is a deep sense of readiness forming now. Not the kind that waits for perfection. The kind that moves even when the path is still unfolding. You are no longer asking life to convince you. You are listening for resonance. And when something aligns, you feel it immediately. No overthinking, no second guessing. That is inner authority. Michael watched you grow into this quietly. Through restraint. Through patience. Through moments when you could have reacted, but chose reflection instead. That choice matured you. Now, the way you approach life is different. You don't chase outcomes. You choose directions. You don't force connections. You allow them to develop naturally. You don't rush decisions. You let them settle until they feel clear. This is not slowness. This is precision. And precision is what protects what you are building. You may notice that some doors feel closed, not frustratingly, but firmly. As if life itself is saying, not this way anymore. That guidance is not rejection, it is redirection at a higher level. Michael cried because this is when many people finally stop fighting the current. They start flowing with it. And when that happens, effort becomes efficient. Progress becomes sustainable. Growth becomes grounded. You are refining yourself. And refinement always looks quieter than ambition, but it lasts longer. From this point on, what enters your life will do so with purpose. Nothing random. Nothing draining. Nothing that requires you to abandon yourself to make it work. You have outgrown chaos. And what meets you next will meet you in clarity. This is not a pause in your journey. This is the moment your journey starts responding to you. Something inside you has become unshakable. Not rigid. Not defensive. Rooted. You may still face uncertainty, but it no longer destabilizes you. Questions can exist without threatening your peace. Silence can exist without creating fear. Waiting can exist without draining your hope. That is strength with depth. Michael recognized this as the moment you stopped measuring yourself by external timelines. You no longer compare your path to others. You no longer rush to prove progress. You move according to alignment, not pressure. And that changes everything. Life begins to meet you differently when you stop negotiating your worth. when you stop explaining your boundaries, when you stop needing permission to protect your energy. You are doing that now, naturally, without force. There is also a release happening. Old expectations are falling away. Not bitterly, gently. You're no longer attached to how things were supposed to look. You are open to how they actually want to unfold. That openness is powerful. Michael cried because this is surrender without defeat, trust without blindness, faith without fantasy. It is grounded belief. From this point forward, your steps will feel lighter, not because the road is easy, but because you are no longer carrying unnecessary weight. You are choosing what belongs with you. You are leaving behind what doesn't. And that discernment will guide you more accurately than fear ever could. You are not waiting for certainty to act. You are acting from clarity. And clarity never leads you backward. This is the quiet confidence that supports lasting success, inside and out. You are standing exactly where you need to be. There is a subtle confidence now shaping your presence. It's not loud. It doesn't rush. It doesn't ask for approval. It simply is. You may notice that your reactions have slowed. Not because you care less, but because you see more. You understand patterns before they fully form. You sense outcomes before they arrive. That awareness is earned. Michael observed this shift with deep respect. Because once someone reaches this level of clarity, life no longer overwhelms them. It collaborates with them. You are no longer fighting resistance. You are navigating reality. That distinction matters. Your focus is becoming sharper. Not narrow, but intentional. You know where to invest your time, your energy, your attention. You know what drains you and what fuels you. And you no longer feel guilty for choosing what supports your growth. That is self-leadership. And self-leadership attracts trust, from others, from opportunities, from life itself. You may feel less urgency to speak, explain, or correct. Silence is no longer empty, it's strategic. You understand that not every moment requires your voice, and not every situation deserves your presence. Michael cried because this is wisdom in motion. From here, progress will feel steady rather than dramatic. You will build quietly, consistently, intentionally. And one day, people will notice results without having seen the process. That's how lasting impact is made. You are not waiting to be seen. You are becoming undeniable. And what's undeniable doesn't chase recognition, it draws it naturally. You are moving with clarity now. And clarity, once established, only deepens with time. There is a sense of inevitability surrounding you now. Not pressure, not force, direction. You may not know every detail of what's ahead, but you no longer question whether you're moving forward. The hesitation that once slowed you has been replaced by quiet commitment. You show up differently now, more present, more deliberate, more grounded. Michael felt this shift immediately. Because when direction becomes clear, resistance fades. You are no longer negotiating with fear. You acknowledge it, then move anyway. You don't need certainty to take the next step. You trust the intelligence that brought you this far. That trust is not naive. It is informed by experience. You've seen what happens when you ignore your intuition. You've also seen what happens when you honor it. And now, your choices reflect that knowledge. Your life is simplifying, not by losing meaning, but by removing distraction. What remains feels aligned, necessary, real. You are no longer scattered. You are centered. Michael cried because this is the stage where momentum becomes sustainable, where growth no longer comes in bursts, but in steady expansion, where success no longer feels fragile, but earned. From here, your actions will feel natural, not rushed, not forced. You'll move when it's time, rest when it's needed, and trust both equally. You are not chasing outcomes. You are living in alignment. And alignment creates its own results. This is the version of you that doesn't panic when things are quiet, because you know something is still working beneath the surface. You are standing in direction now, and direction always leads somewhere meaningful. There is a deep calm now that doesn't come from answers. It comes from trust. You are no longer waiting for reassurance before you move. You've learned that movement itself creates clarity, and that clarity strengthens with each step you take in alignment. Michael recognized this as the moment you stopped bracing for disappointment. Not because nothing can go wrong, but because you know you can handle whatever comes. That confidence is quiet, but it's solid. You're beginning to experience life as something you participate in, not something that happens to you. Your choices feel intentional. Your boundaries feel natural. Your energy feels protected. This is self-mastery forming. You may notice fewer emotional highs and lows. Not because you've become indifferent, but because you're balanced. You respond instead of react. You reflect instead of rush. That balance is powerful. Michael cried because this is where peace stops being temporary and starts becoming a baseline. Where progress doesn't cost your well-being. Where growth doesn't demand self-betrayal. You are no longer surviving your days. You are inhabiting them. From here, success will feel quieter, but deeper. Relationships will feel fewer, but stronger. Your direction will feel clearer, even when the road curves. You don't need to see the entire path. You trust the ground beneath you, and that trust will carry you forward, steadily, confidently, without losing yourself along the way. This is not the peak. This is stability. And stability is what allows everything else to rise. This is where everything settles. Not into stillness, but into truth. You have arrived at a place inside yourself where nothing needs to be proven. You are no longer asking life for permission to become who you already are. You stand with a quiet certainty that does not depend on outcomes, applause, or validation. Michael's tears were never about fear. They were about relief, because once a soul reaches this point, it cannot be pulled back into confusion. The noise may return, the world may rush, but you will move through it anchored, not shaken. You now understand something most never do. Your power was never in force. It was in alignment. Every delay refined you. Every loss clarified you. Every quiet season strengthened you. Nothing was wasted. From here, life does not need to push you forward. You move naturally, guided by clarity, protected by discernment, grounded in peace. What belongs to you will meet you without struggle. What doesn't will fall away without drama. This is the calm before expansion, the stillness before movement, the knowing before manifestation. You are no longer waiting for a moment. You are the moment. And from this place, your life will unfold with purpose, depth, and quiet strength, exactly as it was meant to.